Being to order at 6 o'clock, and with that, we will move to closed session. We have adjourned closed session, and we will now move into item 3, open public hearing. Dr. Rue.
Yes, thank you. Tonight is a public hearing to review the 2014-2015 Texas Academic Performance Report. And coming to the podium tonight is Dr. Melissa DeSimone, who will review that report with our community.
Good evening, and it's my pleasure to present the Texas Academic Performance Report for 2014 and 15. As of tomorrow morning, this will be live on our assessment, research assessment, and accountability page in the district website. Originally, this was called the Academic Excellence Indicator, which we still have some residual years on our website, so that if you would like to go back and review that, you're more than welcome to do that. Part of the what we call the TAPR for short is it covers our state accountability measures, which are Index 1, student achievement. How well did all the students do on every STAR exam, including EOCs? Index 2 is student progress. How much growth did our students show year over year on tests that there are year over year tests? Index 3, closing achievement gaps. Each school in our district is looked at according to our populations as far as which individual groups are on the lowest performing, and we are expected to see some increase in that the following year. And each year that is recalibrated. And Index 4, which is post-secondary readiness, and that includes our college and career readiness indicators in high school, which includes SAT, ACT, AP scores, AP participation, and in our elementary school, that is our index. Our achievement scores on the STAR index at the highest levels. Here's a graphic provided by Lead Forward, which gives all the math matrices and all of the other things that you probably don't want to know about that go into making those indexes. This year, I have great news to report. Our index scores are well above the target scores that the state has set. Index 1 was set at a target score of 60. That was an increase of 5 points from the year before. And our district scored 87. Index 2 is a target score of 20, which is a point or two higher than it was the year before. That is set based on the 5% of the lowest performing school districts in the state set the target score. So we're double where we were expected to, or where we were going to be held accountable. Index 3 is our closing performance gaps, and our target score was 28. We were 46. And Index 4, our post-secondary readiness, target score is 57, and we scored 80 points out of 100. All campuses met standards this year. 6 campuses earned 1 or more academic achievement distinction designations for a total of 10 altogether. I do want to note that our elementary campuses were not able to make an academic achievement distinction designation this year in math because math scores were not figured into the index scores because of the change in the TEKS. Highlights for the 2015 TAPR include our Phase 1 Level 2, which is the passing standard for 2015. Across the board, we scored well above the state average. Post-secondary readiness, which is our final recommended, where the state would like to see all of our students at by 2021 or 2 now. They keep moving that date back a little bit. We scored well above the state in that indicator as well. Phase 1, Level 3 or above, this is considered the advanced the advanced category. We again scored well above the well above the state in every single indicator. Our STAR percent met or exceeded progress. Again, if you look at our reading met or exceeded, math met or exceeded, writing met or exceeded, we scored well above the state indicators. Our student success initiatives. This is where students were expected to, in grades 5 and grade 8, in reading this year. Math we were not held accountable for math this year. Grade 5 and grade 8 reading, 86% and 88% of our students passed on that first time around with the STAR. Our attendance and annual dropout rates are very good. At Northwest, we went up 0.3 percentage points on our attendance from 2013 to 2014, which shows that our principals have placed a focus on increasing attendance, and it's paying off. I know 0.3% doesn't sound like a lot, but when we're in the above 95%, that does take a lot of effort to move 3% or 0.3 percentage points. And our dropout rates are well below state average. Our recommended high school and distinguished academic plans, once again, we're above state average, and that's been a trend for the Northwest. Other college readiness indicators for our 2014 graduates, once again, we're well above state average on advanced course and dual enrollment, CTE coherent sequence, AP participation, and AP results. And I do want to put a little asterisk that we expect that to be even higher next year. Enrollment, as everybody in this room is aware, we are a growing district. So as you can see, and you can see where our elementary numbers are climbing, and our students in grade 12, that's grades 11 and 12, we're about to phase out of smaller graduating classes. Northwest, our total staff employment is up over 2,000 now for 2014 and 15, which shows our growth again. And staff information, just real quick. Average years of experience, we're a little bit below, which is to be expected for a growing district because we're hiring people. Average years of experience in our district, again, a little bit below the state average, but again, we are hiring people, and it shows that our turnover rate is below our state average, and that's a significant number, so teachers are happy here. Program information, just real quick counts. Our counts have our percentages of our students who are in those programs have remained pretty steady across the board. I think our GT went up just a little bit. Our financial standards report is also part of that, and that is, if you'd like to look at that, that's the website to go look at that, and it's also attached to the TAPR. And that concludes our TAPR presentation. Are there any questions?
This is a public meeting. Members of the audience are free to ask questions as well.
Yes.
Dr. DeSimone, I do have a question for you. Actually, I have a couple.
Okay.
As we looked at many of those graphs, and we see the percentages, and I first must applaud our teachers, principals, all the way up through administration, because exceeding state standards is something to shout about. I want to look at some of those, though. Would we look at the percentages of those that passed?
Yes.
Are very low. I mean, the state standards are pretty low. Could you go back to some of those graphs? Like that one there.
Okay. The side on the right side, or my right, is our exceeded standard. So those are the students who are scoring at the advanced levels on the test. So 18 and 23% is a good number for exceeding. But the passing is your next question.
Well, it's basically said, okay. Where do we set the bar? Where do we say, what kind of tools do we give our students? What kind of tools do we give our teachers and our principals so that we can have more people taking those higher tests and maybe scoring higher on them? And I know we're doing good. I'm not saying,
yes,
okay, let's kill everybody, because I know everybody's working hard to get where we're at. But I'm just trying to, what are the tools that we can provide?
Right. And this This slide is specific to the growth measure, is
Yes.
it not?
Yes, it
Index
is.
2, which
Yes.
isn't the same as the actual percent of kids who pass the test are achieved at an advanced level.
But there were some on
Right, absolutely. So this particular one is on the growth measure. And to show growth, students have to exceed their score of the previous year, not match their score of the previous year.
And the literature, there are some issues with measuring students on a growth measure on a standardized test. They weren't originally designed for that, and so there's been quite a few challenges recently to this particular measure.
Right.
But that said, we are showing, even with those caveats, we are showing growth with our students.
But your point, I certainly understand what your point is. Going back to, I think, phase in 1, level 2 or above, which is the passing rate there. You know, our goal is to see this in the 90s across the board, that we have 90% plus students on the first administration doing well on any test that we give them, any curriculum-based test. Now, this one's norm referenced, and it has a different construct to it. But when it's curriculum-based, when we know that it's an assessment of actual student learning and curriculum, we're expecting 90% plus.
One of the issues has been that there was an alignment from grade to grade with a lot of these measures, which makes growth challenging. But at the same time, our demographics would be different than the state demographics, so we would want to have higher standards. But part of it with the test, as I understand it, is there is an alignment from grade to grade, so it's very hard to have growth if your assessments aren't aligned. And so I'm curious, are they working on that? Because I know this next year the standards will be raised again.
I believe it's becoming more and more of an imperative because the political climate is demanding that, and there have been some judicial challenges to using a growth measure index, particularly with teacher and district accountability, school accountability. Right now, in fact, this morning I read a news article about Houston, right here in our state, that there has been a recent challenge to using a growth measure for accountability purposes.
Dr. Thornell, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't know if this addresses your question exactly. The TAPER report is just basically about our district and the results that we have there. Some of the bars and measures that we look at, each campus is given a comparison of 40 school groups that are like theirs, and principals have been working with that throughout the year. So when you ask where the bar is or where do we want to be, we're able to compare ourselves to like districts and like campuses, and we are doing that ongoing. It's outside of this report, but it is something that we could definitely share and show as far as the recommended results and next level reports.
Yeah.
Are there any further questions?
You had mentioned off of this report that math was not required because the teach has changed.
Yes, this is a growth measure, and so whenever they changed the TEKS, they could, going back to what Dr. Simpson was explaining, they definitely could not make a comparison year over year going from 3rd to 4th grade because what the students were assessed on was completely different.
Seeing as there are no more questions, we will close the public hearing and move to item 5, convene the regular meeting, beginning with our invocation and pledge of allegiance. Dr. Root?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, if you'd care to join me. Dear God, we thank you for the people gathered here tonight. We thank you for the vision, purpose, and commitment that each of our board members brings as they work for the benefit of children in Northwest ISD. We ask, as we discuss and as we talk about the future of our district, that we have the wisdom to make decisions that guide our students' learning and the insight to consider the many needs of Northwest ISD and all of its students. We ask safe passage for each person present as they make their way home tonight, and we ask your blessings on this proceeding. Amen. It is my pleasure tonight to introduce two students who will lead us in our pledges to our flags tonight. They are from Granger Elementary. They are here with their principal, Mrs. Etheridge, and have their assistant principal here as well. We're proud to see both of you. And let me begin. We have two young ladies who will do a great job for us. The first is Leah Lewis. Leah, just a little wave. She is a 5th grade student and is the daughter of Laura and Troy Lewis. And I know that Mr. Lewis is right back there. Her favorite subject is science. She enjoys running, student council, horseback riding, and volleyball. Got quite a well-rounded group of activities. Her principal writes, Leah is a student I can always depend on if I need anything. She has a quick smile and leads with energy and enthusiasm. Great, thank you. And our second student is Taylor Hymas. Taylor is also a 5th grade student. She is the daughter of Tiffany and Rhett Hymas. I know her father is right back there. We're glad to have you tonight. Her favorite subject is English language arts. She says it's her favorite subject because I love language arts and Mrs. Johnson as the teacher. Our teachers inspire us. That they do. What does she like to do in her free time? Soccer, piano, student council, and after school, is what I love to do for after school activities. Perfect. And her principal writes, Taylor is always energetic and positive and a dynamic leader. She has innovative ideas and is always looking for opportunities to help others. Both of these young ladies are officers in their campus student council. So we thank you for being here tonight. Now, if you would, please move to the podium and lead us in our pledges to the United States flag and the Texas flag. Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready? Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. And I believe you might have something you would like to say. Maybe.
I'd like to say a few words about my school. My school has amazing leadership. Our principals, our teachers, and our staff, they're really helpful. Whenever it comes to going the extra mile, they're always there. My sister needs help sometimes, and without her even asking, her teacher came up to her and asked, "Can I help you after school?" And all our teachers love always to help. And thank you. And I just love being at K. Granger.
Great, thank you.
And I would also like to add that we show great grit and to help kids not be bullied. And thank you for allowing us to take time out of your school board meeting to do the pledge.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Oh, ladies, if you wait just a moment. Thank you. They did a great job and made us proud.
With that, we will move to item 7, recognitions. Dr. Root.
Yes, thank you. And Mrs. Nell is at the podium as we speak.
Good evening, President Wright, board members, and Dr. Ruth. We have a number of recognitions this evening that we're really excited about. And one of the ones I'd like to begin with is recognition of our school board. January is School Board Recognition Month, and this year's theme is Superheroes for Schools. NISD would like to say thank you to its 7-member Board of Trustees. Each board member is committed to the district's vision, beliefs, putting kids first in every decision. The NISD Board of Trustees dedicate countless hours to serving and providing governance to the school district while providing a place where students can thrive and be prepared for their futures. The 2015-16 Board of Trustees are President Josh Wright, Vice President Mark Schluter, Secretary Devonna Holland, members Ann Davis Simpson, Judy Kopp, Lillian Roush, and Mel Fuller. And with that, I'd like to introduce a couple of students who are going to come forward, and you'll be surprised with what they are going to deliver to you tonight. But I'd like to begin by asking Logan Morrow from Northwest High School and Zachary Garcia from Byron Nelson High School.
A hero can be anyone, even a man doing something as simple and reassuring as putting a coat around a little boy's shoulder to let him know that the world has not ended. Batman spoke this in The Dark Knight Rises. I just love that quote because despite it being spoken by what the world recognizes as a superhero, it wasn't at all about having unrealistic powers or all kinds of cool gadgets. It was about simply doing something for someone else out of the goodness of their heart, expecting nothing in return. In this way, the school board members are superheroes to us.
In order to show our appreciation, students across Northwest ISD created an e-portfolio to represent our gratitude for all of you. Let's watch a video created by students in the AMAT Academy at Northwest High School.
In the Great Hall of the Justice League, there are assembled the 7 greatest heroes of Northwest ISD.
He puts kids first. He donates his time to serve our community.
She gives us a voice in our education.
She supports future-ready learning.
She supports our mission and vision.
She sets policies that advance our education.
He helps us to have the best teachers in the state. And together, they help make the best schools ever. Skills. Where can I get 21st century skills? Pow! Yeah! Smash! Leadership. Critical thinker. Problem solver.
In addition, board members, you have certificates at your place, as well as a gift certificate for a visit to the Byron Bistro.
All right.
We also have a presentation, appreciation video from the NISD administrative offices produced by Rachel Bobbitt, NISD Communications and Multimedia Specialist.
From the Technology Division for all that you do for our schools.
Good evening, board. Just want to say thank you. We know that you are true superheroes for our district, and on behalf of the facilities, planning, and construction, we would just like to say thank you.
Thank you.
Your superpowers make Northwest work.
We are here to recognize the superheroes in our work. The NISD School Board. Josh Ryan, Mark Schluter, Savannah Holland, Judy Cobb, Mel Fuller, Lillian Roush, Dr. Ann Davis Simpson. Like all superheroes, our superheroes are hardworking, compassionate, energetic, organized, responsible, brave, strong, self-starters.
They may be able to fly or even have a magic lasso.
Thank you for all you do for NISD students and educators. And thank you
for being our superheroes.
From the Northwest Education Foundation to the NISD School Board, thank you for everything you do and for leading this amazing ISD as we make sure that every student is future ready.
It's a bird.
No, it's a plane. No, it's our Northwest ISD Board of Trustees.
You are all heroes to us, and we appreciate everything you do. Real heroes don't wear capes. They lead school districts.
Thank you for administrative services. NISD Board of Trustees is the best of board can be. Puts kids first all the time. Guides and governs, they are prime. Look out! Here comes the school board.
Pow, pop, kaboom.
Real superheroes don't wear capes. They change the future. Thank you for being our school board.
As you can see, you're very special to all of us at Northwest ISD.
I would just like to, it's so overwhelming. Thank you both for being here. Thank you for what you did, and all of you who came here tonight, taking time out of your Monday night. We're a very lucky group as well because of the people that we get to work with and the students, staff, the administration that we have here. It makes our jobs so easy, and I'm very thankful. Thank you so much for all that. It's too much.
Maybe some of it unnecessary, huh?
It is very appreciated.
Thank you. Well, we'll continue on with our recognitions, and we have some very special ones. And I'd like to begin by asking Dr. Rue and President Josh Wright to come forward, please. I'd like to also invite Dr. Gary Gant, Assistant Superintendent for Administration, Glenda Beam, Director of Safety and Security, and Mike Conklin, Security Coordinator, to join them. Northwest ISD has received a school safety certification by the Texas School Safety Center at Texas State University in conjunction with the School Safety Task Force. The purpose of the School Safety Certification Program is to award a school safety certificate to school districts that have met criteria specified by the Texas Unified School Safety and Security Standards. School districts are assessed on their safety and security practices and emergency management. The standards are mapped into 4 phases of emergency management, which include mitigation and prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. NISD school safety certification is valid for 2 years. As the recipient of state and national recognition for its safety and security programs, NISD has maintained a commitment to providing a safe environment in which students can learn. We would like to recognize and thank Glenda Beam, Director of Safety and Security, and Mike Conklin, Security Coordinator, for their management and training of the district safety protocols that have earned the district the school safety certification. Thank you. I'd like to ask Dr. Simpson to join Josh Wright and Dr. Rue. And I'd like to ask Carrie Pierce, Principal of Hatfield Elementary, and Mary Van Etten to join them, please. At the 2015 TWU Billy J. Askew Reading Recovery and K-6 Literacy Institute, teacher leaders were celebrated and recognized for the extraordinary role they play as literacy leaders. Mary Van Etten, Reading Recovery teacher leader at Hatfield Elementary School, was recognized for sharing teaching sessions and for participating in collaborative district literacy initiatives. Mary has been committed to sharing her expertise in training first grade teachers and in making her teachers and parents aware of reading recovery. Mary, Northwest ISD thanks you for your commitment to provide our students with the best literacy, instruction, and interventions available. Thank you very much. And at this time, I'd like to invite Jerry Cantu, our coordinator for Partners in Education, and Phil Beckman, PI Specialist, to join Dr. Rue and Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Ms. Neal. Launched almost 10 years ago, the Partners in Education Angel Tree Program was established to serve students and families needing assistance during the holiday season. The program ensures every adopted angel would find something under the tree on Christmas morning. As our district has grown, so has the number of angels. This year, the NISD community served a record number of students on the Pi Angel Tree, as more than 1,220 angels were adopted. Some gifts were much more than anyone could imagine. One child asked only for a new smile. Thanks to the Byron Nelson High School softball team and local orthodontist, dentist, and oral surgeon, the student received assistance for a total of over $12,000 in dental and orthodontic services. She received a gift that will last a lifetime. However, all of this would be impossible without the dedicated volunteers who received, organized, and distributed the gifts in time for the holiday break. We are pleased to recognize the following individuals for donating their valuable time and effort in service to the NISD Angel Tree Program: Joy Harrison, Amy Rodham, Tammy Moots, and Jamie Winters Johnson. We thank you, and more importantly, our angels thank you.
Yes, and we'd also like to thank our community and our staff members who came forward and went out and purchased presents for all of these students. This was almost double the number of students that we served the previous year. So this was a tremendous wonderful giving opportunity that all of you participated in, and we're most thankful for that. Thank you. And that concludes our recognition.
Again, thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you. All right. That will take us to item 8, public participation. We have no public participation this evening. Item 9, consent agenda.
Mr. President.
Mr. Schluter.
I move we approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Schluter, a second by Mrs. Holland to approve the consent agenda as submitted. All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Mr. Fuller is unable to be with us this evening. All right, that'll take us to the discussion action portion of the agenda. Item A, budget parameters for the 2016-2017 school year. Dr. Ray.
Yes, thank you. And Mr. Graswich is here to present those to the board.
Yes, annually the Board of Trustees in January starts off the budget process by reviewing, discussing, and approving budget parameters to direct and guide the development of the budget. And so it is time for the 16-17 budget process to begin. Essentially, we have revenue assumptions and expenditure assumptions. On the revenue assumptions, we start out with student enrollment because we are still under the additional state aid for tax reduction formula funding through 16-17. That expires in 17-18. And so the enrollment basically will drive the state funding as an offset to local funding. The forecast itself is prepared by Bob Templeton Associates. It has been reviewed by the Financial Services Department, myself, from the viewpoint of revenue, from Facilities Planning and Construction by Mr. McClure, looking at capital projects forecast, and then by Administrative Services, Dr. Gent and Kim Cayley, to look at staffing, and I know that they're working on staffing as we speak even. So that is in process. The assessed value of taxable property growth, we will not receive any hard numbers until June. We'll receive some preliminary numbers in early April from Denton only. Our property is appraised in Denton, Tarrant, and Wise County about 20%. So we'll get about 40% of the roll as a preliminary shot in April. We're just going to use an estimate starting out about 7.5% and then see where it goes from that based on the data we receive from the appraisal districts. We also have recapture based on the property tax value study that comes out at the end of the January on a preliminary basis and the end of June on a final basis from the Comptroller's office. We have the forecast in here at this point, no change for the maintenance and operations tax rate, which is $1.04. And the interest and sinking tax rate, which is $41.25. The district has $100 million in unissued bonds, $55 million in the 2012 issuance, $45 million in the 2008 issuance. Interestingly enough, I received information today on another possible refunding. It'll be a small one if we decide to go forward, but we may be bringing one of those to you as well again. To help save some money on payments. Probably the biggest thing that's out there is the legislature, and not in the form of the legislature itself, of course, because they won't be meeting, but in the Texas Supreme Court, which may trigger a special session depending upon how they rule. Of course, the state of Texas lost at the district court level. It has since been taken to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has not yet provided a timeline for rendering their final opinion, but it will have to happen, and it will happen before the next session. Credit ratings are excellent. On the expenditure side, the flip side of the revenue is also expenditures, which is the biggest cost driver, which is student enrollment, which affects the hiring of teachers and the staffing of campuses, which we have standard formulas for both the funding allocations and the staffing formulas. Then we will be looking at programmatic staffing as well with the curriculum and the other departments. We have several major bids coming up this year for both food service, which is really outside of the general fund, but transportation, which is within the general fund, of course, and other areas as well. So just reviewing the 15-16 board budget parameters that were approved, a budget that focuses on the district's vision and is guided by the strategic plan, a budget that is held to the highest standard of financial accountability and reflects a commitment to efficient management of growth, a budget built on a $1.04 tax rate and, if needed, utilizes fund balance to provide for any revenue shortfalls, a budget that prioritizes allocation of resources to the classroom, a budget that maintains the current campus staffing formulas, and a budget that considers the possibility of improvements in employee benefits and/or compensation. This is really, though, a board item for y'all to direct us, the administration, in the development of the budget, and so I will turn it over to y'all.
Mr. Grasswich, that last, you said you just read the 15-16.
Well, it's the 16-17, but essentially it's the same as 15-16.
It's okay. That's
it's an extension of that.
That's what I seem to remember.
Yeah. I didn't want to. I put it out as a placeholder for 16-17. I don't want to presuppose what the board will approve.
Board members. All right. And this is going from tonight. This will be what's going forward. This is
a discussion item, so if we choose to make revisions to this, we have time to do that and bring it back to you for further review and possible action at our next meeting.
Okay.
Now, one thing I would ask you to take a look at if you are as we go through these these are commitments that have guided the development of our budget for a few years now. We have also looked at what it took to balance, if we needed to use any part of our fund balance for any, to balance revenue shortfalls that might come through the allocations we receive per student. And in doing that, we have asked for waivers in our 22-to-1 ratio, and our current allocation, our current staffing formula, which we would review and update for this next year, might be the one area that you would like to take a look at. We're at 22-to-1 K through 2, at a 24-to-1 at 3 and 4, and then of course we have no other criteria other than the things that we have done internally and that are reflected in our staffing formulas. And there we keep close to a 25-to-1.
I'd like to see us, I know there's always a balance with the tax rate versus additional staffing, but I know the last few years have been pretty tough on our teachers. And I know adding a few extra students to the classroom doesn't sound like much until you're in that classroom.
That's right.
So, every student probably increases that by like 25%.
So that will come up after.
Yes. So we can adapt that staffing formula to reflect. I believe that we're very, very close to that as we've worked our way out of, the $22 million loss that we accrued, that we incurred in 2011. So 5 years later, we're back almost to where we were when we lost it. That I think we can move back in this next year to a 22-to-1 K through 4. And as it is now, we have a handful of waivers in the district.
What was
at
it
the
you
moment?
said? What, K through 4?
K through 4.
What was it? What was the number, the ratio? I'm sorry.
Oh, 22-to-1.
22?
Yeah.
Okay, I misheard.
22-to-1.
For K
And we have maybe 10, perhaps 11 classrooms across the district at 3rd and 4th that actually have waivers at the moment. So we are very, very low. When we first began this, that very next year, we were 60-ish plus waivers in order to meet budget and move forward. So we have over time been able to move back out of that. So but I think that that's something you might want to consider.
So in looking at the parameters of the wording on a budget that maintains the current campus staffing formulas, or
I think the wording is probably okay. Because but as you look at this, I want you to look at it through that lens of us adjusting the campus formulas themselves.
I think we've been headed on the right track since the financial shortfall a few years ago, and I would hate to see us have to return. I think it benefits the teachers, the kids, the parents, everyone when we maintain that.
Yeah, and I think it'll be a year to year because we have ASETAR looming out there as well, and that's another $10 million or so for 2 years in a row.
Well, 10 to 15.
Yeah. So probably sticking with current campus staffing formulas helps us have stability on an annual basis.
It'd be very helpful if we had some clue as to how the Supreme Court was going to rule and how the legislature was going to react. But I have a sinking feeling that this is going to be like back in the early 90s, that they had to have. They ruled against the state. The Supreme Court ruled. Texas Supreme Court ruled against the state of Texas. The state of Texas then came up with an unconstitutional solution, went back to court, came up with another unconstitutional solution, went back to So I'm afraid that this thing could drag out for quite some time before it's finally settled. I would like to believe it'll be a quick settlement, but I just don't see the cooperative spirit in the legislature at this time. But the 17-18 expiration of ASETAR is in law, and that will reduce our funding unless something changes by $500 or $600 per student. So it is significant at this point in time, but once again, it's 2 years away, and so there's a lot that's going to happen over the next 2 years.
So, Mr. Grasswich, is it your recommendation that we approach this in a conservative way for the next couple of years?
Oh, well, I think my recommendation is that when we look at the staffing and we see how close we are to 22 to 1 as opposed to 24 to 1, that'd be a factor on the table. And that we look at that. Because 10 teachers would be $650,000, something like that.
Well, it's 10 classrooms, and that's sometimes at the same grade level. It could be as few as 5 teachers.
Well, if it's 5 teachers, then it's half of that. If it's 10 classrooms that you're splitting, then you're talking 5 teachers, $300,000, and that's not, quite frankly, a big deal on a $165, $75 million budget. So
I think that
as close as we could be, I think we should be able to work it in.
I think that the budget parameters are conservative in and of themselves, and yet they propel us forward with our vision. So they direct us to that vision, and being able to review those and make modifications on an annual basis is really the path to take.
What is our rationale for making specific the elementary teacher staffing versus looking collectively at staffing such as academies or secondary? Because I know we're going to hear an update on courses needed at the secondary level. And so I'm just curious.
We actually have in the budget document itself, the staffing formulas are published, and they are for high school, middle school, and elementary school. There's separate staffing formulas for each type of campus.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but I'm just curious in the parameters as to why particularly at the elementary.
Well, actually, the way it's worded, it's just strictly campus staffing formulas, whether it's middle school, high school, or elementary. I was just being specific about that one area where we've been more constrained.
I guess what I was wondering is, as we look at this total budget, how do we take a look both at elementary but also at new course offerings or special opportunities through our academies? How do we ensure that we have looked carefully across at all of the areas?
That's one of the things that we'll do on the front end. But one of the things that's going on in the background right now is we HR, Kim, myself, and Logan Ferris from Curriculum Instruction, and then we're meeting with Celine Braswell with CTE and Joel Johnson and the principals to kind of go through staffing across the board for programs such as CTE and everything to kind of look at, is there anything we need to adjust in our staffing matrix? And one of the things that we were talking about, actually, Logan and I right before the meeting, was that with CTE it's very different with some of the academies because you can't do a standard, here's what it is for a classroom. We have to look at each one individually. So that's one of the things that we're working on right now to look at to make sure we're handling those the best way possible.
Yeah, and Dr. Thornell.
Later this evening, I think Dr. Ferris is going to bring forward portions of the audit that they did on the course guide, which allowed for some different courses to be offered and some flexibility in those options. I think will help the staffing as well.
Right, and I guess I was just curious because I know you're looking at all of these, but specifically in these parameters, we've identified one area. And I would just like to be sure we've identified all of those areas and recognized all of the work that's going in. And from the presentation prior for the public hearing, there was a need, it looked like, to address our English language learners, and so that will be incorporated into what comes forward.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And beyond the course review and looking at the courses that are being offered, we're also conducting a review of the scheduling and how schedules are developed and what impact that has on teachers at our secondary levels. So we're looking at all of those components, and that will move us forward into staffing allocations for campuses. But first, that staffing formula itself serves as a parameter around what size a course would be before it makes, and then the number of students that we would consider acceptable within that classroom.
And the other areas, you may recall, we had a whole series of discussions in last year's budget process on the second staffing request, which just about centered 100% around special education staffing. Mm-hmm. So we normally, and we'll talk about this in a second in the calendar, but we normally bring the formula-driven first staffing request to the board in February for action, and then we come back on the more specialized staffing requests in April-ish, May, depending upon how the numbers are falling out. And this year, since it's not a legislative year, and I'm not anticipating any major changes coming out of a Supreme Court lawsuit, we'll probably be bringing it earlier, the second staffing request in April, as opposed to where we have to wait and see what the legislature's thinking and try to push it back till May. So hopefully we can bring it forward on an earlier basis for the second staffing request. But that will be a more comprehensive look than just the routine formula-driven one.
Are there any further questions? Discussion? All right, with that, we'll move on to item B, budget calendar for the 2016-2017 school year. Dr. Ruth?
Yes, Mr. Graswich will be sharing the calendar as it is proposed to you today.
Of course, the calendar is rather detailed, a timeline, but it's being driven by our core beliefs, vision, mission statement, and goals. On a broad basis, we do the budget planning in January and February, the budget prep, the packages are distributed and prepared and brought back in February. The administration and board reviews everything in March through May. The administration pulls it together in March, bringing it to the board in April and May. We do the budget adoption, of course, in June, and then the tax rate adoption takes place in August after we receive the certified roll. The budget is adopted on the certified estimate in June, which, quite frankly, is not terribly accurate. The central appraisal districts are just not prepared at that point. They're just starting their review process, but then we adopted the tax rate on the roll in August. Then, of course, that goes into the fiscal year with budget amendments, and it comes back around as the audit report a year later. As I said, if you look in the budget review, we'll have the 5-year financial forecast at the next meeting, along with the approval of hopefully the budget calendar and parameters. Then we go to the DLT, district leadership team, distribute the packages to the campuses and programs. They prepare their budget requests. They're reviewed internally, as I say. We have the first staffing request scheduled for discussion at the 8th in February and for approval on the 22nd. And then, as I said, we bring the second one in along with the compensation plan, hopefully in April. The compensation plan, of course, would be not only a possible increase in wages, but looking at the benefits package as well. We want to take a detailed look at that this time around in particular. And then we load it up and bring you back the budget package, the complete package for your approval in June, and the tax rate in August. Be happy to answer any questions on the calendar or make any changes. Can't believe it's this time. It seems like we just...
Well, didn't we just do this?
We did. We actually did.
Yes. Oh, what fun. I will defer that to Mr. McClure, but yes, well.
Yes, just defer it.
We'll just leave it at yes, but because although we have, like I said earlier, $100 million in unissued bonds and some bond funds that have been issued but not spent, I think when he's going to go through the detailed work, but I think we're going to see that at some point we're going to start working on our next comprehensive high school, and there is not funds for that at this point. Yeah, the funds are committed to various things, and so that will definitely be driving some sort of a bond election at some point. We're, of course, had discussions looking about site purchases and land and things of that nature already. And as you see, the growth forecast that we've presented and that Bob will be presenting tonight is pretty much inevitable. And that's one of the things that came out of the demographic review is Mr. McClure is looking in detail at three different things. One, for the campus viewpoint, one is some minor boundary changes to enable campuses to work with as they are currently. Second one would be continuing the process of adding wings to 600 campuses designed for enrollment of 600, right, and then bring them up to 800. And then the third thing would be actually building new campuses altogether. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of what he's looking at with the forecast as well.
And the question of a tax rate election. We do have 13 cents that could be accessed through voter approval on a tax rate election. As we move into the fall off of ASETAR and what that means to us, then that would probably be a discussion at a future time.
Are there any further questions on the calendar? Okay, with that, we'll move to item D, TASB Policy Update 103, affecting local policies, and local district update, LDU.
I'm sorry, C.
Excuse me, totally messed that. Item C, 2016-2017 high school course additions, enhancements, or deletions. Doctor, I apologize.
No problem. Thank you, Ms. And Dr. Ferris, we're glad you were here to share the work that you and your committee has done in reviewing and making these recommendations.
Thank you. I thought that was my fast track to the ball game. Dr. Rue and Mr. Wright and board members, we're very glad to bring to you tonight some work from a lot of folks, but tonight we're going to kind of give you a two-part view and a procedure that we went through in informally or auditing the current high school course guide, and then also looking forward with some recommendations for enhancements or deletions and additions. And so I'll try to drive this thing. No? There I go. Just as always, Dr. Thornell has trained me well being here the short time that I have, that we like to always go back to our core beliefs as well as our profile of a graduate. Looking at the core beliefs, this work falls firmly on our goal number one. And so you're going to see that as we work through. But also really looking at what is possible, what is potential, what is in the best interest of our students. We definitely use the profile of the graduate to guide that. Looking forward and trying to determine which courses are going to best benefit our students, which ones are going to prepare them for, in many cases, careers and jobs that haven't been created yet, is rather difficult, but is a very exciting piece of work that we don't accomplish all at once, but we definitely try incrementally each year to try to make progress based on what our student interests are. And so when you look at going through the high school course selection guide audit process, this really included some key parts there that I thought was important to bring to your attention, where we've gone through all of the courses and looked specifically at the course descriptions, any prerequisites, grade levels, and we really took a critical view at making sure that there were no gates, there were no obstacles for students that were not appropriate as a prerequisite. When you look at course selection and the progress of moving through a math sequence, for example, there's some very natural prerequisites that are in there. But some of our courses, we were really looking at making sure they were appropriately available to any student that wanted to take on that challenge. We also looked at low enrollment, areas of courses that traditionally had been of low enrollment, and really taken under the perception there that these were courses that with proper promotion and recruitment had just not been appealing to students, or for some reason had not been aligned in a pathway, a natural progression of courses while they were going through high school. And then I'll show you in a moment some of the criteria we looked at there for, as teachers and principals were proposing new courses, kind of the expectations we had for those courses to meet. One of the big ones, as was alluded to in the previous, is looking at what is our minimum course requirement of number of students. And just to give you an idea, we typically look at 15 there, unless they're extenuating circumstances. If it's a chemistry AP class, for example, something that we have other reasons to champion under advanced academics or other things of that nature, we will buffer those classes with low enrollment until we're able to build those classes up to that. And then also we did a review of the academy courses as well as a capacity study for each of those courses. The course audit fell, as I said, this is something to definitely satisfy our superintendent priority goal number one, in looking at that and identifying a profile of a graduate philosophy, any HB5 endorsements that needed addressing, as well as we spent quite a bit of time, as you'll see tonight, really evaluating the CTE pathways and ensuring that those were viable pathways for our students. If you also definitely want you to, I gave it a little bit different format in the executive summary. So if you want to follow in the executive summary, that is a way. But just to kind of give you an idea of a timeline, we started this work really in August. But boots on the ground began in September, where we established what we started calling our steering committee. And I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Dr. Espinosa and Jamie Farber, Celine Braswell, and Kyle Sight, my choir here in the back. They were very helpful with their areas of expertise and really bringing in information as we started, not only the committee work, but definitely establishing that timeline. And we worked kind of as an interesting team. It was fun. There were times, some of the battles we won, some we didn't, and we moved on. But if you look through there, you'll see that as we moved through the fall, we started with our academy capacity study, where we really analyzed the number of students, and there are a variety of parameters there that we discovered that really impact enrollment. And then the other side of that coin is really excited us about how we can begin to recruit differently and attract more students to that. We've also had, during the month of October, our middle school academy tours, where students have been able to see what's going on in there. And then you'll see on October 16th was our CTE course review. This is where we sat down with Ms. Braswell and we went through a process of looking at each pathway and trying to ensure that not only were the course descriptions and the prerequisites and all those things I listed earlier, but that we had a coherent sequence of courses where students could earn an endorsement and or could satisfy a pathway as they move through high school in particular. And then you'll see through the month of November, we met with a variety of folks, whether it be middle school counselors and principals. They did have a vested interest in the high school offerings, especially with regards to algebra, Art 1, Spanish 1, health, speech, other courses that we offer at 8th grade level for high school credit, with the intent of making room in their high school schedule for a variety of other CT electives and other higher order advanced academic electives as well. We also met on more than one occasion, but we met initially with the high school administration and counselors to really talk them through, to garner input from them as to what they're seeing. They see things a lot more closely than we do so far as student interest in what's available and what's needed, or anything that seemed to be chronically a problem that disadvantaged students. And then at the end of November, we had our new course request deadline. This is where we stopped accepting new courses unless they were very compelling. But we were trying to train our staff district-wide that we need to have some set timelines there for consideration in new courses. We then worked through the high school application for the academies. You'll see there. We had that as a deadline on December 18th, which is a lot later than we typically have. But with the work of the audit, as well as really trying to promote those academies, we did take note of how many applicants we had on December 18th. We were just off, but about par for what we had in years past, despite the fact that we've opened 2 academies in 2 subsequent years. But we have continued to hold that application process open and begun to even look at other ways that we can attract students, not only that are in 8th grade trying to make decisions for the rest of their high school career, but also students that are sitting in 9th grade and maybe didn't take advantage of that when they were in 8th grade, but still are in a good position to take advantage of our academies. And then we move forward to tonight presenting for your consideration some of the things that we have there. Looking forward, we have a variety of things that really fall under the category of the course selection process and recruitment. We are going to have our high school academy acceptance letters going out later this month, and that is intended to be a very exciting time where we're welcoming students into those new academies. And then if you'll look forward, February 22nd, something we're doing a little bit differently is we're converting our open houses for high school into more of a showcase. It will look very much like a college fair, where we will have some receptions for those students that have been accepted into the academies. But this is a chance for students, as they're going through the course selection process, to actually talk to teachers and try to understand what is the difference between pre-AP and on-level. What are these electives, as well as promoting clubs and organizations. And then through March and April, we'll complete our course selection process and begin our staffing evaluations once those numbers are set in budget, but we will start to see how do those actually fall on the campus level as we begin to build the master schedules for each campus. So that gives you kind of a timeline overview of what the committee has done and really what we've been striving towards. When we look at new course proposals, these are some of the criteria that we look for, and we ask them to give us information in consideration. Obviously, it has to have a course title and description. It has to have a PEIMS number so that it's already an established class. If not, there's other work to be doing for innovative courses, etc. And we've looked very closely at things like prerequisites and grade levels and any of those things that we really kind of challenged as a group that may be gatekeeping, that may be preventing students from moving forward. But then looking through the rest of that list, you can see that are there staffing considerations. I am proud to present that most of the things that we will be presenting tonight as recommendations are not appreciably requesting additional staff at this time. These are things that we could do within the staffing allotment that we already had, just working a lot smarter with the courses we have and the staff we have, and being able to present more offerings. We also wanted to look very closely at personnel certifications. Sometimes we get very excited about new courses and we fail to look, do we have teachers that are highly qualified to teach those courses? And so that's something we definitely like to do on the front end, as well as trying to project budget requirements of what types of training, what types of equipment may this course require, not just initially to get started, but what does year 2 look like, and then what does a maintenance budget look like for that. I will keep talking. If y'all want to stop me anywhere, y'all just feel free. I know this is very difficult to read, but what I wanted to give you a snapshot of is one of the tools that we used that we were working with. This is a worksheet that we use to try to analyze and really critique our CTE pathways. What we're looking for there is 3 or more courses in a coherent sequence. And across the top there, you see that I believe there are 17? So we offer 14 of the 16 state-assigned CTE pathways. And what we have done in some of that color coding, you'll see that red, obviously, you can guess what that means. These are low enrollment courses. These are potentially courses that we are recommending to discontinue, while the green and or the purple are ones that we can enhance or leverage and make sure they're in the right position so that students can take advantage of those many, many pathways that we have. One of the discussions that came up through this really was, how do we help promote very meaningful pathways that maybe mimic some of the academy work, but is not at the same level of each of the academies. We felt like students needed to have opportunity. If a student's decision or their situation prevents them from being involved with an academy, we want to still have at least some courses they can take in that area that would encourage them. And so we've gone through and tried to maximize that. In the next couple of years, we may be bringing some other recommendations forward to try to enhance these further as students move through these. But this just kind of gives you a graphic of how we organized our work and began to look at things. So any questions on the process? Yes, ma'am.
Is that, I guess, government put together categories?
Government is one that we don't currently have any courses in the district with, and those would be something to look forward to in the future. Not all districts offer all CTE pathways. The other that we looked at, STEM had some limited exposure outside of the academy, but you'll see in a moment that we have some proposals to move forward that may make that available to more students. So those are the two.
And then transportation, we just added with mediation, we will be going forward. So we just now added that in. With our, we have a full pathway. As well as law, we don't have a full pathway.
So those are things for future opportunities. Those would require probably a bit more planning on our part, making sure we're very purposeful in what we're doing, and potentially could obviously involve some staff requests that we want to go through a more in-depth study and proposal before we did anything there. But again, we have a very robust set of CTE pathways that pretty well will address just about any interest that students may have. Other questions just on the process? This was rather challenging, and as you can imagine, it involved a lot of people, a lot of input, really giving them time and taking our time to value their input. We were not able to bring forward recommendations that were favorable to every request, but those are definitely things that we can file and begin to look at. Maybe there is a better situation in the future, or in future years that may be something that is viable at that time. So looking at the recommendations for additions, enhancements, or deletions, as you noticed hopefully in your executive summary, we tried to organize these not by department as we normally would, but actually by category, so that we kind of see how courses began to fall. For example, these are 3 fairly straightforward elective courses that really don't fall into a CTE program or in any of our core curricular areas, but these are 3 courses that are needed for next year. The first one is a personal finance literacy course. This is actually one that is articulated by the state that we must offer. Doesn't mean it has to make. We just must offer it. And we have 2 or 3 other similar courses that offer very similar, but we are being compliant by including that in our course guide. The second 2 there are actually follow-up courses to courses that are already established. Our avid students that are currently in 8th grade, and any of those that we identify in next year they'll be entering high school, will be starting our AVID program, AVID 1, in 9th grade next year. And so obviously we need course descriptions for that to satisfy that. And then with each year we would add an AVID 2, AVID 3, AVID 4 as that cohort moves through high school. As well as last year we started American Sign Language Level 1 in our foreign language department, and we'll be adding a second year of that for students that are engaged in American Sign Language for their world language. The area of courses that we'd identified that we are recommending to drop due to low enrollment. These are courses that, not just for this year, but for previous years, we looked back and collected data to identify courses that had routinely not made. So these are not necessarily courses that we're not offering anymore. It's because they haven't made and we haven't offered them for some time now. And you look down through there, some of the dual credit classes there at the top may still be viable and available at Steele in the academy there. So we will reserve them for that purpose. But looking at the top two there, those are some dual credit courses that have routinely had very low enrollment or possibly didn't make either to meet NCTC's requirements or our requirements for a course to make. The Chinese class, we had, I believe, 3 students this year request, and we were offering that as a virtual and online type format. And when we shared that with parents, all 3 said, you know what, I don't know if we're going to go Mandarin online. So that was something that was just has been of low enrollment, has been very small in interest. If that interest grows in the future, obviously that would be a course that we would consider, and we would start from a programmatic standpoint of building that up and adding that to our area. It's 1 through 4. It's a sequence, though, but we don't have any Chinese courses that we'll be offering. We were this year, the interest was for Chinese 1. And so currently we have all 4 listed in the course guide, and we'll be making a recommendation to remove those at this time. And if it becomes viable at a later date, then definitely that's something we could revisit. The last 4 there are, again, some low enrollment courses in CTE. Some of them have been replaced by other courses that maybe are more attractive to students, but again, they have been routinely low enrollment for some time now. Yes, these are all electives. Correct. And every one of those have a viable pathway other than what's described there. So there are other ways that students can engage, for example, in the business courses or in small animal, large animal vet prep. There's lots of areas, and there are other foreign language, obviously, that we can offer there other than Chinese. However, I was reminded by one student that Chinese is probably the most widely spoken, and I said, well, I heard it was English because they're speaking English as fast as we are. But those are the courses that have routinely been of low enrollment that we would look to drop from the course guide. Looking at the next grouping of courses, these are new advanced academics courses, and these are really intended to increase our advanced academic opportunities. Starting with an On-Ramps English 4 course. This is a unique course because it does not require our students to have to be at the same level. They don't have to, these are kids that are not engaged in dual credit with NCTC. And so the on-ramp requirements are a little bit more generous for students. And so this will help us attract a group of students that aren't qualified or aren't accepted into NCTC, but they will be able to engage with an on-ramps program. And so this is something that's attractive to us to get that next sliver of students that are not currently engaged in English 4 advanced classes to be able to do so. The AP Computer Science is a new course. The AP Human Geography is not a new course. We have offered that as a 1-year course, but there has been some interest in being able to offer that as a semester course, and it is described to be able to design and offer it in both ways. And the AP Capstone is a new course. This is the first course of a 2-part series that we'll be offering the second half, hopefully next year, where students are able to engage in an independent research topic. And so it will have a variety of topics that students will be exploring there, but this will be year 1 of a 2-part capstone through the AP through College Board. Any questions on those?
So the capstone is being supported by advanced placement?
Correct. This is a new College Board advanced placement course that next year will be the first year it's offered through College Board.
May I also add that all 3 of our high schools had to apply to the College Board for an application to be accepted to do so. Not all schools have received that honor. Even Eaton without seniors was able to do it.
Correct. This is typically a junior level class, and then if interested, there is a second-year counterpart to this where they can engage in it's AP Capstone Research, I believe is the title for it, that we would add as a senior level.
And so the new elective courses and the new advanced academics courses potentially would require additional faculty?
The AP capstone, actually, we're anticipating that will only be a section or two. It will not be a full teacher unit, and so it'll be something that will be able to work within our electives. Many of our human geography, for example, that is within we can already support those within our history department, as well as computer science. Computer science is one of those that I would say we typically will protect for low enrollment because it's a viable course and we want to grow that course. And this is an opportunity for them to move beyond into a fourth year of computer science. And so these are all courses that we'll be able to offer with our current staff.
And so the courses, again, as you said, would require at least 15 students, except for a course that you're trying to grow.
Correct. And we anticipate that even the capstone class will be able to meet that at each of the high schools. Right, looking at some courses we're looking at, these are ones that we want to realign in order to really build our advanced placement opportunities for our students. To give you a little bit of background on the first bullet there, it took a lot of wordsmithing and a lot of reflection, a lot of discussion, because when you see the words drop and pre-AP in the same line, it catches our attention because that seems to go against what our goals are. But to give you some background there, when we have a pre-AP English 3 course, it also has an AP course that's English 3, so that if a student engages in pre-AP English 3 or world history or U.S. history, or for that matter any college board course that has an AP offering, then that student is automatically not able to participate in the AP course. And so by us removing the opportunity, and we had some very low enrollments, these are not large class. The world history class was the larger of the 3, if I remember correctly. But what we intend to do here is by not offering these courses, we're going to be advising students into the AP version of each of those courses. And when you look at the enrollment there, we want to stress with them the different safeguards that we have. If they're unsure, that's a chance for not only teachers and counselors, but even administrators to reassure them that this is a course. It's not a dissimilar course. It's not that different, but we want them engaged on that AP level. Similarly, with the statistics class, we've had a triple level of that, meaning that we had both dual credit and AP as well as an on-level course. And through recommendations from the math department and the campuses, those have typically been the lower enrollments of those varieties. We are recommending to not offer the on-level statistics, and we're going to guide students into the AP and the on-ramp statistics for each of those. All right, the next few that we'll look at are really specifically looking at the CTE pathways and building some opportunities for each of those. So first of all, the first grouping these are new courses that we want to build to strengthen our CTE pathways. The first one there that you'll see is not a new course necessarily. It's a very popular course with students throughout North Texas. Advanced Animal Science is especially attractive because if the teacher is certified in life science, that student can also gain their 4th science credit towards graduation for that within the agricultural pathway. And the Advanced Interior Design and the Practicum in Architectural Design are both our ability to give a 4th-year experience for those students in those pathways that are already created. And so this gives them another step for them to be able to move very specifically into a field that they have already had coursework in. When we look at dropping our CTE course, we only have one that we're recommending there. Interpersonal Studies has not proven itself to be effectively aligned with any one coherent pathway. It became kind of a wild card course, if you will, and we are electing to remove that course primarily because we have so many other course offerings that we have many courses to fill the niche for them there. The next 2 slides are something that kind of has evolved over the last month or two. in looking at this. We found when we looked at our CTE pathway that really the STEM pathway was isolated with students that were engaged in the STEM Academy. There was not really a coherent offering outside of that. And in talking and reflecting and talking with principals and getting some input from teachers, we found that we needed to build that pathway. And so the next two slides kind of work together. So if you let me go to the next one, it'll make a little more sense. Within our STEM Academy, much like in our Biomedical Academy, we're looking at converting that coursework into the Project Lead the Way coursework. This is an accredited program. It's very popular throughout the state, but it's very specific with an engineering pathway. And while it does match up very closely with our STEM program that we have right now, we've gone through with the staff there at Northwest High School to ensure that we're going to propose that we begin phasing out the courses that are existing there and replacing them with the Project Lead the Way courses. This will require some training in the summer, but we feel like we've worked a budget and presented that to Dr. Thornell that will be able to work within our current budget to be able to do so. It's just a matter of shifting our emphasis from one course of study into one that is accredited through Project Lead the Way. And so by adding the Intro to Engineering Design, the IED class, as well as the Principles of Engineering this next year, that will be kind of phase one of beginning to move the other courses out of the academy and replacing them with Project Lead the Way. So when we go back to the previous slide, the courses that we are removing from the academy now become very viable for the other two campuses at Byron Nelson and as well as at Eaton to begin to offer a coherent sequence outside of the STEM academy at that point. So you see the concepts of engineering there and the engineering design and problem solving. These are courses that we currently offer in the academy that we would now be able to work into. And there are other courses that we may add to that in future years, but this gives us a good start for actually allowing students that are not in the STEM academy to still have some exposure to engineering specifically within the STEM academy. Any questions on that one? That one's a pretty big shift for us. That nicely the way it worked out seamlessly, and as we were really focused on helping support the academy, we had a beautiful constraint just land right in front of us where we were able to make that available to the other two campuses, and the other two principals were quick to accept the challenge, so they were very excited. One thing that you may look at when you see the recommendations for the Academy of Media Arts and Technology and AMAT, it looks like a lot of courses that we're adding. What we were needing there in looking at not only the capacity study, but also the courses that we were offering, we found that the staff there was really trying to scramble to find something the senior year that really engaged the students that had strong momentum going into that senior year. And so by looking at these advanced courses, these will primarily be junior and senior level courses, but really primarily senior level courses. Many of them have a prerequisite that's very similar to them, so this gives them the ability to really delve in more deeply into a very specific aspect of media arts and technology. And these courses lend themselves to be co-described within a course period, meaning that we could have 2 or 3 of these offered within one class period, so it doesn't require additional staffing to be able to do that. And this was something that the facilitator there really advocated, that they were wanting to engage their students further and felt like there was a little bit of a dip in their senior year and they were running out of courses for them to take. This will, as you can see, give them more than enough courses to engage in. Cosmetology. One of the challenges with our Academy of Cosmetology is primarily that coursework is in their junior and senior year. And so they transfer to Steele and they spend 2 years waiting to take a course. This is an opportunity. It's gotten a lot of chuckles in our group, but we are looking to add a hair braiding specialist course that could be taken during their sophomore year. This gives them where they're able to get into the field a little bit earlier than they had anticipated. But again, this is something that we can support within our staff and the setup that we have there. So if you need your hair braided, just let me know. We'll hook you up. The next 2 academies are our newest 2 academies at Eaton High School. With the aeronautics beginning next year, obviously we need to add the coursework that is required for that, including an introductory course with Embry-Riddle. This is a prerequisite course that will actually allow students to then move both into Embry-Riddle and Tarrant County College coursework with dual credit. So this is a prerequisite that will meet both pathways, whichever that the student is choosing. And then with our business management and entrepreneurship program, we're beginning to add our junior level courses with virtual business and practicum in business. So this is a natural request for what we've already started there. The other three academies are established well. There are some fine-tunings that we were needing to do, but many of them are at capacity or have very clear goals for building them, but there was no need for additional courses or any deletions at this time. So that concludes a fast overview of the course selections. I would be welcome to entertain any questions or clarifications.
You're going to announce these in the spring for the fall?
Correct. Our timeline is actually fairly quick. Hopefully, after discussion tonight and pending board approval on the 28th, we are beginning our work to start that process. But this course guide will go out very quickly once you approve it at the end of the month, and it will be available for students and counselors and ready to move forward for next fall. So because the course selection process begins before spring break, so this is we're on a tight timeline.
And some of the folks on staff will be cross-trained to expand their repertoire and include some of these additional courses, or how much do you hire?
Correct. They're either already certified and highly qualified, or we have already established plans and pulled initial budgets for them to be trained this summer in preparation for that. To remember back on the new course selection, that was a similar expectation that we placed for all these courses. Again, it's very easy to get excited about a course and realize we have no one to teach that. Now we got to go find somebody to teach it, and we are doing our best to avoid that and looking at the staff that we have and building on their capacities that they already have in place. If not, it will be coming forward on the budget. Yes.
And so explain to me how these requests are evaluated and measured in relationship to the report that we heard at the beginning of the board meeting with the TAPR.
Correct. One thing I would add is that as with many of these, we had very intentful purpose to try to invite more students into advanced academics, giving them more opportunities, even looking potentially at any gatekeeping that we may have had with prerequisites or grade level hindrances. So the more students we're able to engage in pre-AP level work in advanced academics, I think it's natural that we would begin to see performance in a lot of those areas. That's an assumption that we're working on.
Are we going to monitor and measure that? I mean, will that be something we can get?
It speaks to Sue's question earlier, too, but all of our trends are up at the increased enrollment in our technical classes is also on various steps, the SAT, projects. Most, if not all of those things are up.
Right, and you'll note that in our CBAS that our number of students who are persisting with advanced placement dual enrollment classes and are scoring 3, 4s, or 5s at the AP level is up as well. So that's, and of course that reflects itself in any standardized tests that students will be taking. And we continue to monitor it in those ways.
And obviously beyond that, when we're able to engage students in high school with something that they're passionate about, other indicators that we look at, such as completion rates and graduation rates, and just their level of enthusiasm begins to grow. And so this was a very robust look. We looked at every course. We scanned everything. I would hope in the future we can begin to fine-tune that. And if we find pathways such as we saw with government or something, if that becomes a viable pathway, that we have enough students to make it viable moving forward, then we would quickly bring recommendations forward in coming years.
I have a question. if we have students who do not get into or choose not to be in one of the academies, are we seeing that we have pathways for them to still experience some of those things like technology, engineering?
Exactly.
Correct.
Business.
And a perfect example of that is our proposal with the engineering pathway. While those had been excluded to only students in the STEM academy, we're now, by revamping and going with Project Lead the Way, we're freeing up courses that will be available to them. But that one sheet that we looked at that had all the pathways across in the color, that's one of the tools that we use to try to track to make sure that we're offering a robust experience. It's not the same as an academy. Academy really dives into those specific areas and extends beyond the pathway. But students that are not in the STEM program at Northwest, for example, that have a passion in engineering, or potentially their junior year, they decide, you know what, I think I want to try this. We want to have courses for them to be able to really test that passion and see if that's something that they want to do.
I think 8th grade last year was the first time that they had to start using that career pathway.
Right, the endorsement.
Correct.
You're thinking
With the
about
endorsement process.
After the House bill, Senate bill.
Right.
I do hope that we will continue to adapt the local, maybe alliance community, because the HR group could offer some real life examples of how these electives can actually with hands-on experience.
Definitely. Oh, absolutely.
In this area.
And much of those courses that we propose as practicums, we'll be wanting to give that real-life experience there. What's nice is it's flexible for us because we're not required, as opposed to like a co-op that you would traditionally think where a student has to be employed and paid. These practicums can be, they're free. They're like a free internship. So we're able to give students actually a wide range of experiences within a set field that they've expressed an interest in. And I think, too, that even watching my own children, sometimes those pathways convince them that, okay, this is not what I want to do. And those are still valuable. Those are still great things for them to do. My son knew he did not want to be a language arts major, and we went straight math science. That was easy to do at that point.
They're learning early on. But you probably get a lot of free volunteers from the community that are leaders in these different
Definitely. Two of our favorite words, free and volunteer, in the same sentence are always great. Yes.
Board members, are there any further questions? Thank you, Dr. Ferris. That'll bring us now to item D, TASB Policy Update 103, affecting local policies, and Local District Update LDU 2016.01, affecting local policies. Dr.
Yes, thank you. And Mrs. Nail is here to share this with the board at first reading.
Yes, we're bringing you some valuable bedside reading this evening. TASB Update 103 represents the first of two post-legislative updates. It encompasses changes in the law from the 84th legislative session that have an immediate effect on governance and management of the district. The local policies included in Update 103 address several topics such as training requirements for district peace officers, the use of prepaid meal card accounts for students, employee conflicts of interest and standards of conduct, harassment and discrimination, e-cigarettes, and student attendance. In addition to the TASB local update, we also have a district local update where we have actually removed TASB update local policy DH. We made some additional changes other than what TASB had submitted to us. Also, FFAC and FFAF. DH has been revised to conform to changes in state law from House Bill 910 and prohibits the unlawful use, possession, or display of weapons, including firearms, for employees, and revisions to FFAC local and FAF local allow the district to implement a program to administer district-provided epinephrine, which is known as EpiPens. And here you can see the list of policies that we're asking you to look at. The majority of these policies are revisions with two additions. CKE has actually CB is the state and federal revenue sources, which deal with federal funded programs, as well as adding a policy for food service management, CO. Are there any questions?
Well, all right. I don't think we have any questions. Thank you, Mrs. Nell. That'll take us to item E, extension of demographic services contract with Templeton Demographics. Dr. Lee?
Yes, thank you. And Mr. McClure is coming forward with this item.
Yes, good evening, Board. Just this is a second renewal of a contract we already have with Templeton Services, and as you can see, the services stay pretty much the same, exactly the same, actually. No increase in cost, and it is our recommendation to move forward with that approval.
I think we should have had the report before we get the recommendation to the next.
I don't think there's
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, that will go ahead and take us to reports. Report A, demographic report. Dr.
Yes, and Mr. McClure will introduce our guest tonight.
Absolutely. We have with us tonight Bob Templeton Demographic Services, if I can get that out of my mouth, here to present the third quarter update for us.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Wright, board members, Dr. Roots. Very good to be here with you tonight. Tonight I'll briefly touch on the economic conditions that are affecting the state of Texas and specifically what's going on in the DFW region. We'll look at the housing market, and then we'll get to the enrollment projections. Well, the unemployment rates in the DFW region continue to be some of the lowest in the country. In fact, the DFW Metropolitan Statistical Area's unemployment rate's at 3.9%, which you can see is quite a bit better than the rest of the state of Texas. The state of Texas has experienced a little bit of slippage in unemployment related to energy, but the DFW region continues to perform quite well with job growth that is primarily related to professional services. The new home construction market also continues to be very strong. We've seen an increase of about 12.5% from the third quarter of a year ago. The annual start rate is up to about 25,881 new home starts across the DFW region. In fact, some of the employment growth areas, just wanted to give you a highlight of some of those professional service jobs. The Toyota North American relocation from California to the Plano area is about 4,000 jobs. Liberty Mutual Insurance, about 5,000. State Farm, 8,000. Of course, here in the Fort Worth area, we've got Facebook. Although it's not a great number of jobs, it is going to add some tremendous value to the appraisal value to the district. And then we've got some other professional service type jobs coming across the Dallas region. You'll notice it is primarily in the north portion of the DFW region, so it's going to continue to drive housing growth in the north parts of Tarrant, Collin, Denton counties across the region. Another look at housing. This is the MLS data, multiple listing service across the DFW region. We continue to see all signs are pointing to a very hot housing market. Average price is up about 6%. Year-to-date sales up 6%. Median prices also up about 9%. And then the negative parts of the graph, number of listings are down 15%. Days on the market is down 29%. And then the home inventory is down about 7.5%. When those bars remain negative, continues to be pointing towards a very hot market, so that home prices are going to be going up, and then the new home market is also in a favorable position to see new home construction.
Bob, have those negative numbers ticked up any from prior year, prior year?
Not from the previous quarter. You know, some of the factors that we could see that could start to be a little bit of a change is, the interest rates are going to start to trick up just a little bit. Not going to see great increases in the interest rate, but we do see that the overall interest rates are going to start to move up a little bit. Now, that's not going to have much of an impact on relocation buyers. So the folks that are relocating to the area because of job growth, they're going to be buying those homes whether the interest rate moves up a little bit or not. It could have an impact on affordability for the really young buyers. So the young buyers are struggling with new home purchases. And that's primarily because the financing requirements are so strict in terms of down payments, credit ratings, debt,
So the young buyers, it is a little more challenging, but your existing buyers, your second, third-time buyers, this change in interest rates is not likely to have much of an impact for them. Now, across the DFW region, Northwest is at fourth in terms of annual closings. We're closing right at 1,151 homes in the last 4 quarters. We had starts was 1,151. Closings was right at 1,105. We've got 1,773 vacant developed lots on the ground, ready for builders. We have 25,099 future lots. Those are preliminarily planned. That's the second highest number of futures in the DFW region. When we look specifically at the quarter breakdown of starts and closings, in the third quarter, we started 375 homes. That's the highest number that we've seen in over 5 years. Probably we'd have to go back to the previous housing boom around 2005, 2006 to see numbers that are this high in terms of quarterly starts. Now, we closed 283. That lag between starts and closings is just that it's taken builders longer to get those homes finished. It's not speculative building. It's just that the subcontractors are under duress because there's so much, and the subs aren't quite to that level that they were a few years ago. But we are well on the way to seeing well over 1,200 to 1,300 home starts in 2015. Now, here's your top 10, and the top 10 makes up about 57 to 58% of all the activity. And you'll notice that Dorado Ranch is number 1 based on 86 annual closings, but we have 3 neighborhoods that were doing over 80 annual starts, and then we've got another 6 neighborhoods that are doing well over 50 homes per year. And you'll notice that pattern is primarily in the south, and it's also in that Roanoke Trophy Club area. That's where we've seen the most current annual closings. When we look at where the vacant developed lots are, we're starting to see a little bit of a shift, and we're moving north now along 35. We're seeing a surge in Harvest Meadows, Meadows, and then Canyon Falls. So that growth is going to start to increase along 35 north as it moves up into those 2 neighborhoods. When we look at future lots, that's when we start moving west. Now, this gives you that pattern of growth that will likely see surge beyond 3 years. So we know where the vacant developed lots are. That's where it's going to grow in the short term. Where the futures are, it is going to be heading a little bit west as it gets into some of those larger areas of course, the expansion of Sendero Ranch, the Tradition. I'll go into a little bit more detail about Tradition, but we do believe that the Tradition is likely to break ground sometime in this 2016 year. Now, when we break out this data by elementary zone, the number 1 zone is the Schluter Elementary Zone that's building well over 220 annual starts per year, but we have 6 elementary zones that are building over 100 homes per year. The second is the Cox Zone, third is Peterson, and then you'll notice you've got Justin, Beck, Roanoke that are also doing well over 100 homes per year. Now, some of the details, this is not all of your active subdivisions, but we just wanted to give you some of the highlights of some of the new stuff. Of course, Canyon Falls is active. There were 37 homes under construction, and so it is off to a pretty good start. And there's about 600 lots that are in the Northwest School District's area. It's in the Roanoke Elementary Attendance Zone. Yes.
On that one, where are they still building first? Do they have?
It is. Let's see if I can. It's the area. You can kind of see it on the aerial image there, where the ground is kind of turned up. As you go in, if you drive into Canyon Falls, there's an entrance that goes to the left that takes you towards I-35. That area right in there is where they're building homes presently.
And that's in the Northwest ISD?
That's in the Northwest ISD. Okay. Now, they're also building in the Argyle School District as well. But presently, they're building in both areas.
Okay. Thank you.
Harvest Development, which is Hillwood, And it is also split between Argyle and Northwest ISD. There's about 2,300 lots in Argyle ISD and about 650 lots in the Northwest School District. I believe there's some future phases that might even add some additional lots to the Northwest section. But right now, there were 20 homes under construction that are within the Northwest ISD's portion of the Harvest development. The tradition, I touched on it a little bit earlier, it's about 2,560 total lots. There's also an apartment portion with about 640 potential apartment units. It's on about almost 400 acres. The developer is telling us that they could be breaking ground at some point in 2016, and that's in the Hatfield Elementary Zone. That 114 label should be down a little bit. That's actually sitting kind of on the railroad track, but just to improve that reference, it's that should be in the south of that where its current location is on the label of 114. Harmon Ranch, 807 total lots, 287 future lots. There were 84 vacant developed lots in the current phase, and it is got just a little bit of section that is in the Eagle Mountain School District. Wanted to give you an estimate of what the current yields are. There's 172 elementary students in the Harmon Ranch, which is pretty high. You got 78 middle school, 71 high school students, so the total yield is about 0.78. That yield could get a little higher just due to the fact that there's so many elementary kids. As those elementary kids move up into the middle and high school grades, we can see that yield get close to 1 student per house. Sendera Ranch, of course, it's been one of your largest master plan communities that have been active, and it currently had 37 homes under construction during the third quarter, 95 vacant developed lots, so we are expecting the future developed phases to bring some additional lots fairly soon. To give you an idea of the yield in Sendera Ranch, 1,105 elementary students, 549 middle school students, 590 high school students. It also has a yield of about 0.87 students per house. Well, here's a look at the enrollment projections. You'll notice that the green or the yellow box is the largest grade per year, and your current largest grade this year is at 9th grade with 1,745. It's not uncommon for that 9th grade to be the largest grade. Most school districts in Texas, the 9th grade is the largest grade. It's because they pin up there a little bit. They don't quite get enough credits to become sophomores. That happens at virtually all high schools in Texas. And so the second largest grade is in 5th grade, where we have 1,668 fifth graders. We had a little bit of slowdown in kindergarten this year. That happened also across the state of Texas. It's related to a slowdown in birth rates that happened during the recession. So during the recession from 2006 until 2011, the couples, the families that were uncertain about their jobs or about income levels postponed the decision to have children. The recession ended in 2010, 2011. It takes 5 years for that to really play out. So we are anticipating that birth rate from the improvement in the economy will kick back up a little bit. So we'll see that kindergarten starting to grow again next year. Just wanted to kind of point that out. We are forecasting the next 5 years for the district to grow about 5,559 students. That's about the same number that you grew in the last 5 years. I would say that this is a slightly conservative forecast in that we really like it when you grow a little more than we forecasted, because I know that makes John happy, and it is a much better from a revenue perspective and from a financial health perspective. It's always better to be a little conservative on your revenue, and we know that enrollment is tied to your revenue. Now, I would also add that in the next 10 years, we're growing the district by 12,412 students. So we do anticipate, as these major developments like the Tradition come online, it will cause that annual housing rate to also go up to where you could be producing about 1,500 to 1,600 homes per year. The other thing that's going to happen is your neighbor to the south, Keller ISD, is going to be running out of lots
within about a 2 to 4 year period. They'll be virtually built out within 5 years. Where is their housing growth forced to go? It's forced to go north. It's also forced to go potentially a little bit west into the Eagle Mountain School District. But because of the loss of lots in Keller, we believe that your district will pick up that slack. And so you then have another reason why your housing could get back up to about 1,400 to 1,500 homes per year. Now, what does this do to your campus projections? Well, as we talked about earlier, you've got 6 campuses that are doing well over 100 homes per year. And so those highlighted areas are the Sluder Elementary Zone, which you can see currently has about 622 students. So it's growing about 70 students per year based on the number of housing that's going on there. And then I'd also point out Cox Elementary. Now, it's a little smaller enrollment right now, but you'll see it's also growing anywhere from 70 to 50 students per year. Peterson Zone, Justin, Beck. Now, I want to point out the Roanoke Elementary Zone. They're doing over 100 homes per year, and one of the things that happened there, they have a very small kindergarten class. So their kindergarten class was roughly about 85 compared to well over 100 fifth graders. So it's not that they're losing enrollment, it's just that their fifth grade class that they're graduating is so much larger than this current kindergarten class. That's why it looks a little odd there at Roanoke. They really are building a lot of homes, but it's just the makeup of their grade sizes that cause that slowdown, that appears to be a slowdown. At the secondary level, you'll notice that you've got 3 of your middle schools that are right at or just exceeding its capacity. Both Medlin and Tedwell will be right at 1,200 students. And you can see by 2017, 3 middle schools will be over capacity. At your high schools, Byron Nelson will be over 2,700 students by 2017. Of course, you can see that the Eaton campus is growing very fast due to its adding grades. So it's adding that junior class, adding that senior class. So it's really going to be, it potentially could be almost at capacity by the 2019 school year. So I know it was mentioned earlier, high school considerations are going to have to be made to bring on additional capacity due to the growth at Byron Nelson and also the growth that's going to be happening at Eaton. I'll summarize, then we can go back and answer any questions. The DFW region continues to be a leader in job growth. In fact, we're growing much faster in jobs than the city of Houston is. So we are the #1 city in the state and one of the highest in the country for job growth. Northwest ISD had the most third quarter starts in the last 5 years. Vacant developed lot supply is in good position to sustain the current pace, and Peterson, Cox, Sluder have the highest activity in new home starts, representing about 42% of all the starts in those 3 elementary zones. Northwest ISD can expect an increase of about 5,500 students during the next 5 years, and that would put the district's enrollment at 26,507 students. And in 10 years, the district would have 33,360 students, and that's by the 2025 school year. Be happy to answer any questions.
My name came up. I would point out that we routinely budget 10 contingency positions for handling any additional staff. And if we have a substantial overage like we did this year of several hundred plus students, we did a mid-year budget amendment and funded it from the revenue of the additional students.
And when you say that we've had the most third quarter new home starts for the last 5 years, is that compared to our own history? Or
Yes.
Others in our
Compared to the Northwest history. You know, we have to be a little bit careful. Sometimes weather can cause some of those spikes. So we do want to look at it cumulatively. And so, but we do see that the overall numbers are going to be up for 2015.
Board members, any further questions for Mr. Templeton?
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, and we'll continue to be ready. And we're grateful for the opportunity to work with you another year. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that'll bring us to Report B, Boundary Committee Overview. Dr.
Yeah, I just want to comment that Bob did say he was making John happy by his conservative approach. It does not make me happy, by the way, but it is appreciated. So I like to think we got to, be prepared for when they show up. And I think the telling point, and Bob and I have discussed this, is obviously that birth rate. That's the big unknown. And if that starts to accelerate, that can really have a large impact on existing families and existing people already in our community that we're not expecting to buy houses or build new houses and move in. So thank you, Bob. So as we talked about, or I'll reference Logan earlier, just the beautiful constraint. As you saw from the growth models that Bob presented, we do have a beautiful constraint on capacities at schools. And so what I'm here tonight to do is just kind of present you an overview of assembling an attendance boundary committee and what that committee will do over the next couple months to bring back to you for your recommendation for your review and hopefully approval. So pretty quick here, just attendance boundary committee will do some of the things that you've already been privy to. They'll review the district demographic growth projections as well as the capacities of the campuses. What we're doing is we're inviting, working with elementary schools and middle schools that are going to be affected by the boundaries, or we have potentially will be affected by boundary shifts, and inviting those user groups in to have these discussions, sharing this information with them and letting them ask questions. So the demographic projections, their own campus capacities, as well as neighboring school capacities that they could be potentially moving or shifting the boundary to. As a part of that, we would develop long-range boundary strategies, and that's in an effort to improve the efficiency of the schools. And what I mean by that is improve basically the drive time, making sure we're keeping the boundaries as tight as possible to try to be very efficient with our commuters and their coming and goings to our campuses. Minimize future changes. That's one it's a goal of ours, but it's going to be it's a very difficult one. Now, the way I explained it the other day was it's kind of like a tidal wave. As a wave moves in, it's really kind of aggressive right there as the wave is breaking, and everything behind the wave is kind of calm. So as we see that growth coming in, both from the south and from the east, we expect to hope to lock down those attendance boundaries after that kind of wave pushes through of fast growth that we're seeing. So we want to minimize, we want to have an eye towards the future. It's very difficult. We want to try to open, in my opinion, schools at somewhere between 65 to 75%, and then let the rest of that grow in. We certainly don't want to be down at 50% or less opening a school and waiting for that growth. So because of that, we have to balance those boundaries and make some shifts with capacities when they start to get really, really full. So minimize the future changes. Also review the boundary options. The options, Bob and I are working on that as we speak. Had a meeting last week, and we'll continue this week to start to prepare and analyze what the moves mean. So we work with Bob and his group on some software that we can move boundaries, and it'll show you how it affects both campuses that are in question or multiple campuses that are in question. And so we will review those options with the committee, and then ultimately have the committee support a boundary recommendation, and then bring that back for your recommendation and consideration. As a timeline, obviously pretty short timeline there because we will be affecting moves for next year. We're working through the committee member list right now, and we'll invite them towards the end of this month, and then we anticipate somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 meetings with the committee that would happen in the regions of the district that the boundaries are being shifted. And then ultimately in April, bring that back to the board for your consideration. I went ahead and I go ahead and add this slide. You saw this timeline last time. I thought it was important for you to see how that kind of dovetails into the overall plan of the Long Range Planning Committee. And the dashed line there is obviously where the committee work ends on one side. And if you go to the bottom series of coral boxes there, you see the committee work beginning. So we certainly have, I would anticipate we would have members that serve on both committees. As a lot of times those people that are interested in that type of involvement with the district want to be on those committees. So we might have some overlay there. 4 months of pretty active committee work with our community and making sure we're getting buy-in and answering their questions and seeing it from their perspective to take into consideration as we prepare these plans. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. McClure.
Thank you.
All right. That will take us to Report C, November Financial and Investment Report. Dr. Ruth?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Graswich. Just kind of present that report.
Yeah, I just want to preface my remarks with, growth is always challenging, and we're coming up on some faster growth coming out of a bit of a lull from the lack of available buildable lots. And so we're seeing a speed up as the builders take advantage of that. And probably the only thing holding them back is the availability of some contractors to construct. And there is a lot of demand on the subcontractors out there. But I am very pleased and proud of the team that we have to meet this challenge. Bob has tremendous experience going back to his days when he worked through Keller's growth. And, of course, Mr. McClure has extensive experience working within the district. So it is, when you start looking at that visual of where our elementary campuses are at, we're looking at boundaries, we're looking at wings, and we're looking at new campuses. Fortunately, we do have the fiscal resources in the existing bond to start addressing some of those, although not to completely address all those. But I just wanted to express my confidence in Bob and Tim and the group they're putting together. Looking at November, wrong one. We have the financial report. This was delayed, of course, and we'll bring back the December one at the next meeting because we only had one meeting in November, and but at the end of December as well. We had $217 million invested. We're starting to see a bit of an upturn in interest rates from the Fed action. We have 11% in the investment pool, 74% in CDs, and 14% in bank deposits. But that's going to start changing because for the first time in, I don't know how many years, Deanne, but many, we're actually starting to see some competitive agency rates. That, of course, will probably impact, though, the interest rates that are on homes, because if the agency rates are up, that's got to mean that the interest rates are slightly up as well. But I don't think they're going to be an inhibiting factor. We had a fairly balanced maturity schedule. We had 26% overnight. We had 22% at 0 to 3 months, 13% at the next quarter, and 39% out. We'll be, of course, with our next report, you'll start seeing some more of the numbers start to spread out, especially by the time we do the January financial report, because as a Chapter 41 district, most of our cash flow is driven by property taxes, and they are starting to come in December and now into January, and we'll be investing those appropriately. We had $29,000 in earnings for the month of November, $238,000 year to date. The investment report and financials are attached. Really don't have any extra comments on either of those, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Board members? Thank you, Mr. Graswich. Okay, that brings us to Report D, 2015-2016 District Annual Report. Dr. Ruth?
Yes, thank you. I'm very pleased to say that Mrs. Neal is here at the podium ready to share that. I will not steal all of her thunder, but it's a great segue into a review of the work of this year and a direction of our community to our community dashboard.
Yes, well, Northwest ISD strives to be the most sought-after school district where every student is future-ready. This annual report provides the community a summary of highlights of the district's accomplishments for the 2014-15 school year, and then a glance of continuing progress during the 15-16 school year. And all of the work that has been completed is focused around our district strategic goals and our district improvement plan. The annual report, as Dr. Ruth spoke, leads the reader into our community-based accountability website, and where we encourage everyone to go after they look at the district summary to get into more detailed information and actually see some of the actual work that is going on at the campuses. To walk you through the annual report summary, I'm Emily Conklin, and her team was responsible for pulling this report together, and she's going to walk you through it.
Thank you. I'm excited to be able to share our district's annual report with you this evening. Of course, before we began our annual report, we wanted to set clear objectives of what that report was going to look like. So we knew we would be summarizing our achievements that align with our district's improvement plan. We would highlight different programs and initiatives contributed to all of our staff and student achievements. And then, of course, we wanted to create an attractive document that people would be unique to Northwest ISD, that people could see and make us stand out in our community. And then, of course, share updated information on our community's dashboard. Highlights from our annual report. Again, it is an executive summary, as you can see at your seats. I know you guys have a copy, but it is similar to last year's look. It's not the booklet format that we've done before, but it is an executive summary. It gives us an opportunity to showcase and promote our community dashboard. As you can see on the screen, we have a QR code that will, if you scan with your mobile device, it'll take you straight to our community dashboard where there's more detailed documentation of some of the pull-out things that you see on the annual report. You'll also notice that it's, again, designed around our strategic goals. There'll be points of pride examples and Northwest ISD at a glance. And then did you know facts that you'll see. For example, on our screen, you'll see a did you know about our superintendent's blog that she has, the Thinking Together. So that's an example. Of course, with our Northwest ISD brand, we know that it is much more than colors and fonts and font selection. Although these are very important key factors, we know a brand is our identity and our perception and how the community perceives us, what distinguishes NISD and sets us apart from other school districts in the area. So we kept all this in mind when working on this document this year. Again, like Doreen mentioned, it is designed around our strategic goals. So goal 1, as you can see, talks about the community dashboard and e-portfolio. So we'll walk just through all of those briefly. As you can see on goal 1, successful learners focuses on the community dashboard, on our academies, electronic devices, touches on e-portfolios, and then advanced placement courses. Goal 2 discusses our quality staff, so from the creation of our profile of an educator to our fit-friendly workplace and other highlights such as professional development opportunities within the school district and our new teacher breakfast. Goal 3 focuses on communication and community engagement. We have some of the highlights from this past year's parent survey. And then, as you can see in the photograph there, we have a partnership opportunity that was new for our district this fall with Bell Helicopter and Hillwood, and we're hoping to further expand upon that with the Alliance Air Show this coming year. Goal 3 focuses on the learning environment. So, of course, we showcase the opening of B.R. Eaton High School and that dedication, as well as recapping our bond. We have a website there that we encourage our community members to go to, nisdtx.org/bond, for updates on what is going on with the construction and the passage from the 2012 bond. And then goal 5, resources, talking more about the educational dollar, and then, of course, our award-winning practices. I think this is the 12th and 13th consecutive years we've received several finance awards. So, again, that all directs you, each component, each goal directs you back to the dashboard to where you can get more information. There's numerous links and websites and QR codes that takes you back to that site. And as I mentioned earlier, we listed some of the points of pride on the screen, but we also have it located at nisdtx.org/points of pride. This is on the back of the report, and this is also showcased on our website as well. We're also working on a marketing piece right now that's a top 10 that will focus on the different points of pride in our school district and point that out to we'll provide that to our leadership and IC participants and our ambassador participants. And these are some of the places that will be distributing our annual reports that you can see on your screens. We'll also be passing them out at our Connection Luncheon and our upcoming Gold Card this fall, our Gold Card Luncheon. And then it's on our website as well, and we'll be sharing it on our social media sites too. So what's next? We're always looking ahead. What could the next year's annual report look like? As you can see, we've got about 4 different annual reports, anywhere from the executive summary short version to our booklet format. So in keeping with our core belief of continuous improvement, we always want to start for something different, something new. So we'll be looking at perhaps a redesign of the format for next year, possibly going back to that booklet version. Of course, keeping up with the documents and updates on the community dashboard as well. But we're even looking at maybe a video version. Just some other possible ways that we can share what's going on in our district. I'd like to also recognize the work from other departments to help make this piece together. This was a great collaborative piece that we did all together. And then I'd also like to recognize our communications and multimedia specialist, Rachel Bobbitt, for her graphic design work on this document. So, any questions?
Looks great.
Outstanding work.
Thank you. Thank you.
You mentioned the foundation at all?
On the foundation.
Maybe it's not appropriate.
We don't have anything on the foundation.
I think we did.
Right. It's a separate entity, so.
No, they do their own annual report. That's true.
All right, that brings us to item 12. Consider any items removed from the consent agenda. There were none. Item 13, Board President's Report for reminders and information. United Way of Denton County Tribute Dinner is Saturday, January 16th at the Marriott Champion Circle at 6:30. It's across from Motor Speedway. Northeast Leadership Foundation Luncheon, Friday, January 29th, 11:30 a.m. at the South Lake Hilton. And I gave a couple of you wrong information earlier this week. File applications for place on the elected ballot. Window will open January 20th and close February 19th. Office hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and election day is May 7th. As a reminder, please let Jennifer know which events you plan to attend. That's all I have. That will take us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Root?
And I don't have any other items to add. We're off to a great start. 2016 is a good year.
Good evening.